A photo booth strip, 4 frames, curling at the corners. Gary kept it in his wallet for 11 years, behind his license, tucked flat against old receipts, a little square of 2011 nobody was supposed to notice. In the first frame, Crystal's laughing with her head tipped back. In the second, she's kissing his cheek. Third frame, the flash caught the mid-blink, goofy and unglamorous and real. Fourth frame, someone's arm just barely in frame. A sleeve, navy blue. He never looked closely at that sleeve, not once, not in 11 years. Not until a Friday night in October when the past decided it was done waiting. Funny how a stupid piece of photo paper can survive longer than some marriages. Gary owned the Fire Pit Room, a mid-sized chop house off Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, North Carolina, the kind of place where regulars knew his name and he knew their usual order before they sat down. He built that restaurant from a single food truck, grinded through 80-hour weeks, through vendor disputes, through a health inspector named Deb who once failed him over a mislabeled walk-in shelf. He knew what building something real cost. He thought his marriage was one of those things too. Crystal Bennett, no, Crystal American now, she'd taken his name, proudly, practically demanded it at the courthouse, sat across from him 3 weeks before the reunion, scrolling her phone with a stillness that felt rehearsed. "You're still going?" she asked, not looking up. "Lockhart's thing too," Gary said. "Whole crew's gonna be there. Devin, Priya, that guy Marcus. Wait, no, not Marcus, Trent. Trent's coming down from Charlotte." "Right." A pause that lasted one breath too long. "Lockhart's coming." "Obviously, he's the best man, my best man," Gary laughed, low and easy, no idea yet what that sentence would cost him. "Guy's basically family." Crystal's thumb stopped moving on the screen. She didn't say anything else that night. The reunion was at Larchmere Hall, a restored tobacco warehouse turned event space 20 minutes outside campus. Exposed brick and string lights in a bar serving overpriced bourbon smashes. Gary's college group friends, the 6 of them who'd survived 4 years of dorm chaos and 1 disastrous spring break in Wilmington, hadn't been all in the same room in nearly 3 years. Lockhart got there first. He always did. Tall, easy smile, the kind of guy who remembered everyone's birthday and somehow never seemed to be working at it. He hugged Gary hard, thumped his back twice. "Look at you, restaurant guy. You still doing that dry-aged ribeye thing you used to talk about senior year? 45-day dry age now, custom Himalayan salt chamber. You gotta come try it." "I will, I swear I will." Crystal arrived 12 minutes later, and something in the room shifted the second she walked in. Small things. Lockhart's hand, which had been resting easy on his beer, tightened around the glass. Crystal's eyes found him across the room before they found her own husband. Gary noticed. He just didn't understand yet what he was noticing. Devin leaned over halfway through the second round, voice low. "Hey, weird question. You ever notice Lockhart gets, quiet around Crystal?" "Quiet how?" "I don't know, man. Just..." Devin shrugged, already regretting bringing it up. "Forget it. Open bar talking." But Gary didn't forget it. He'd built a business on reading a room, knowing when a table needed the check dropped, when a customer's silence meant trouble, when a supplier was lying about a delivery delay. He read rooms for a living. And this room was lying to him. He found the photo strip by accident, digging in an old jacket pocket for his valet ticket. Same jacket he'd worn to Crystal's cousin's wedding 2 years back, forgotten in the coat closet since. The strip fell out onto the hardwood floor of the hallway outside the bathrooms, face up. He picked it up, expecting nostalgia. He got something else. Frame 4, the sleeve. He held it under the string lights, angled it, and this time he actually looked. Navy blue Henley, small rip near the cuff. Lockhart had worn that exact shirt to their college's homecoming game in 2011. Gary remembered because he'd spilled beer on it, and Lockhart had complained about the stain for a week. His stomach dropped somewhere around his shoes. "Hey," Priya's voice behind him, gentle. "You good?" Yeah, just..." He turned the strip over like there'd be an explanation on the back. There wasn't. "Priya, can I ask you something? And I need you to actually answer, not soften it." She went pale before he even finished the question. "Gary, were Crystal and Lockhart together back then in school?" Silence stretched long enough that it answered him on its own. "I thought you knew," Priya finally said, voice cracking. "I thought everyone assumed you knew and just didn't talk about it because, I don't know, because it was ancient history and..." "How ancient?" "They dated freshman year through most of junior year, broke up right before you and Crystal got together." She grabbed his arm. "Gary, I swear, I thought it was old news. I thought it ended clean." He looked back down at the photo strip in his hand. 4 frames. 11 years hidden behind his own license. It didn't end. It never ended, did it? Here's the part nobody expects, and maybe you don't either. He didn't storm across the room. He didn't flip a table, didn't raise his voice loud enough to turn heads. Gary had spent a decade running a kitchen during dinner rush. He'd learned that the moment you lose your composure is the moment you lose control of the room. So he walked, slow, deliberate, photo strip folded once in his fist. He found them by the drink table. Close, too close, the kind of close that has a language all its own if you know how to read it. Lockhart's hand near the small of Crystal's back, not touching, just near, familiar in a way that 11 years of friendship with Gary had never quite achieved. "Crystal." She spun. "Gary, hey, we were just talking." "I know." His voice stayed even, almost gentle. "You've been talking a long time, huh?" Lockhart's face did something complicated, guilt trying to wear the mask of confusion. "Man, what's going on?" "Don't." Gary held up the photo strip between 2 fingers, didn't even hand it over, just let it sit there, small and undeniable under the string lights. Navy Henley, torn cuff, homecoming 2011. The color drained out of both their faces at once. "That's not..." Crystal started. "Is it a lie?" Nobody answered. The bar noise kept going around them, oblivious, someone laughing too loud 3 tables over. "Gary said Priya already told me that part. I'm asking..." His voice caught, just barely, just enough that you could hear 11 years crack down the middle. "If it kept going. After, when I proposed, when we got married, when you 2 stood up there together and you," he looked at Lockhart now, "handed me the ring." "Gary," Lockhart's voice was barely above a whisper, "it's not what you... I need you to just say it." "Yeah," Lockhart said. It never really stopped. Somewhere around here, if you've ever caught yourself scrolling past a relationship you already knew wasn't right, this is usually the moment people ask themselves why they waited so long to look. The group had gathered by then, quietly, the way people do when they sense something breaking and don't know whether to step closer or look away. Devin, Priya, Trent, who'd literally just walked in and had no idea what he'd walked into. Crystal's hands were shaking. "It wasn't, Gary, listen to me, it wasn't the whole time, it was on and off, it was..." "On and off?" Gary repeated it slow, like he was testing whether the words could possibly mean what they sounded like. "For 11 years?" "I never stopped loving you," she said, and for a second, it almost sounded true. "That part was real. Maybe. I actually believe you on that part." He exhaled hard, dragged a hand down his face. But loving me and lying to me for over a decade aren't the same thing, Crystal. You let him stand next to me at the altar. You let him be my best man. Every anniversary, every dinner, every time he sat at our table. Gary, I begged her to end it years ago. Lockhart cut in, desperate now. I told her we had to tell you. I told her, don't you dare make yourself the reasonable one in this. Gary turned on him fully now, and this was the only moment his voice actually rose. You ate at my table. You held my daughter's photo when she was born. You cried at my wedding. You cried, man, like it meant something to you. And the whole time you were... He stopped, shook his head. I don't even have the word for what you were. The room had gone dead silent. Every person from their old crews standing there watching a friendship and a marriage collapse in the same 60 seconds. Crystal reached for his hand. We can fix this, please. We can talk. We can go to counseling. There's nothing to counsel. Gary's voice had gone quiet again, and somehow that was worse than the yelling. You don't fix a foundation that was never real to begin with. He looked around at Devon, at Priya, at Trent, standing frozen with a beer he'd forgotten he was holding. I'm not going to make you all pick sides tonight. That's not fair to any of you. But I needed you to hear the truth from me, not from whatever version gets passed around after tonight. He held up the photo strip one final time, then folded it and slid it into his jacket pocket, not thrown away this time, but kept, the way you keep proof. This isn't a photo of a marriage. It never was. It's a photo of a lie that started before I even knew her name. Priya was the first to move. She crossed the room and put a hand on his shoulder, said nothing, didn't need to. Devon looked at Lockhart with something that wasn't quite disgust, but was close enough to it. Man, 11 years? Lockhart had no answer. For the first time all night, he had absolutely nothing to say. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized in a Wake County courtroom that took less time than a dinner reservation. Crystal got the condo. Gary kept the fire pit room, kept the custom dry-aged chamber, kept the reputation he'd spent a decade building one perfectly rested ribeye at a time. He also kept his friends. All of them, actually. Devon, Priya, even Trent, who barely knew him and still showed up anyway with a six-pack the week after, saying, didn't know what else to bring, figured you shouldn't drink alone tonight. Lockhart didn't get invited to anything again. Nobody announced it. Nobody had to. Gary opened a private dining room at the restaurant the following spring. Small, 6 tables, string lights that reminded him a little too much of Larchmere Hall, though he'd never admit that out loud. He called it the frame room. Regulars asked about the name sometimes. He kept the photo strip in a drawer at the hostess stand now, not his wallet, not hidden anymore, just put away. A thing that happened, not a thing he carried against his skin every day. You ever gonna throw that out? Priya asked him once, months later over a plate of his short ribs. Gary thought about it for a second, actually thought about it. No, he said. I think I'm gonna keep it, not because it hurts anymore. He shrugged, almost smiled. Because it's proof I finally saw clearly. Sometimes you need the evidence, even after the case is closed. Some marriages end quietly, in exhaustion, in 2 people drifting past each other in a kitchen at midnight. His didn't. His ended under string lights in front of the people who mattered, with the truth finally louder than the silence that had protected it for 11 years. And maybe that's the only kind of ending worth having, the kind where you walk away holding proof, not doubt.